how does our swabhava, our inner nature, our inner software, determine our swadharma, our path to enlightenment? In Ayurveda, if there's a personality dosha type that best opens you up, is there, in our spiritual path, how do we connect our path to our own personality? How do our personality traits align with the path that we're practicing? Does that make sense? Right, and so maybe I can begin this by saying that, what are the signs that maybe that you're not on the right path? And we can say maybe, are you feeling a strain? Are you feeling you're not motivated? Are you feeling burnt out, frustrated? Does it feel dry, intellectual, or do you disconnect from it? We had I remember in training center, our seminary, and I'd see some of our young monks following our senior monk, just doing what he was doing, sort of sitting in front of Mother's shrine with opened eyes and just watching the Divine Mother. And they would just mimic that. But for some of them, it wasn't innate to them. After a while, they didn't stick to that. So what then is our natural inclination, our natural way towards the ultimate reality? And I had a discussion with Gita Pranji, and she made this one caveat in our discussion. She said that, yes, this could be so, but also you have to take into account that you have to give it a shot. Whatever practice you're doing, you can't dig too many wells. Try this, 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 and this. You have to spend a certain amount of time, a certain amount of effort to understand if it sticks or not sticks. You know, there's a famous basketball player, Michael Jordan. He first played baseball. He had hand-eye coordination, spatial awareness, speed, and with his athletic skill, baseball did not work for him. When he tried a different sport, like basketball, he excelled and became one of the best. So, is there a path that is natural to our own personality, our own inclinations? That's what we're going to try to discover today. So, to know what our swabhava is, our inner tendencies, we're going to use 4 personality traits. Your cognitive orientation, how do you think? Your emotional disposition, how do you feel? Your temperament, those inborn tendencies within you. And what is your core motivational drive? We're going to use these things in asking ourselves how they fit with our personality, and then figure out how do they align with our spiritual path. Let me make it very simple. What we're going to decipher here today is what is our spiritual attitude. Today we have 2 eminent speakers. One will be speaking about the path of knowledge. Who am I? The other will be speaking about the path of devotion, the path of love. Who are you? One's going to unpeel themselves and try to discover the inner core by peeling away the onion, deconstructing themselves to get to the essence. The other is going to talk about in terms of relationships, the need for connection. So, what path, what is our spiritual attitude? That's the question we're going to ask here today. Whether in karma and Raja Yoga, this fits into the spiritual practice. Whether you're practicing closed-eye practices or open-eye practices, still, what is your spiritual attitude? That's what we're here to try to decipher and determine today. Are you part of the Jnani or the Bhakta? And I know what's going to happen. Some of you are going to say, well, I am both. You're going to say that. And what you're going to find is that as they speak, you're going to find, well, I do have certain qualities here, and I do have certain qualities here. We are all on a spectrum. There are people like Ramana Maharishi, which is on one side of the spectrum, and Chaitanya on the other side of the spectrum. Yet we fall somewhere in between. Yet, knowing that, what is our proclivities? When you run into a problem, is your first impulse to deconstruct the problem. Where is this belief coming from? Why is this happening to me? Challenging the problem, understanding the problem itself. Or is your first impulse to try to find help? Yelling to the Divine Mother, I need help. What is your impulse? Beneath, what we're going to do is peel away the onion that we're all surrounded and get to our core path. You know, when I started off about Vedanta, for me, the journey was about understanding who I am. I was born in America, didn't know if I was Indian, American, didn't have a cultural identity, was seeking this cultural identity, exploring through this path of who am I? Who am I? Going to India, trying to understand I'm Indian, I'm Bengali. Well, what does that mean? Again, deconstructing myself. Finally, I came to the understanding later on in my spiritual life that I am a child of the Divine Mother. And then my relationship started to change. Then it was more devotional practices. There may be others of you that may take on the approach that I love the divine. And through my process of intimacy and practices, as I get closer and closer to the divine starts to melt away into the infinite. So the journey has many hills and valleys, all right? But again, we're going to ask ourselves, what is our proclivity at this time? Again, first thing, what is your thinking style? And there's two basic thinking styles I'm going to boil it down to. Are you a critical, abstract thinker? Do you think deeply about big ideas? Do you tend to analyze, question, and evaluate through logic and reason, and want to understand the truth behind things? Even abstract concepts like love, truth, and existence? You don't just believe, but you have to reason, reflect, and challenge. Does that come as your proclivity? When you're asked the question, like, you always think, like, what is real? Or are you a concrete, creative thinker, a more what we call tangible thinker, which thinks in terms of symbols, ideas, forms, mythical thinking, symbolic thinking? Do you like to think in terms of forms? Do you grasp the divine, sing it in a concrete way? Do you love to hear about stories of the divine? Do you listen to like the Puranas? Do you love to hear the stories about God's qualities of love, unconditional love? When you hear the Divine Mother, Holy Mother, her unconditional love to the Muslim dacoits. Is it the stories that resonate with you? Or are you more that critical abstract thinker where it's insights that resonate with you? The Upanishads. What is your way? What is your thinking style? Again, I'm boiling it down to two buckets. Are you a Bhakta or are you Jnana? You know, if you were to meet Sri Ramakrishna for the first time, he may ask you, what do you think of God? He would say, do you think of God with form or without form? This is what he asked Mahendranath Gupta. What would you respond to him? In Vedanta, there's one reality. It's either called Brahman or Ishvara. And we approach it in two ways. The impersonal or the personal. One is through the sense of identity. Who am I? The path of knowledge. Or it's through relationship. Who are you, my beloved? The path of love. When we think of that same infinite as consciousness, as existence, we become absorbed in it. We lose ourselves in it. We are that. But if we think of that same reality as one we desire a relationship with, one we pray to, worship, and it responds to us, a responsive consciousness, that same consciousness is called God or the Divine Mother. So in what way do you approach the reality? So now, I'd like to ask, beginning with our speakers, Swami Sarvaprenanji. Maharaj, oh yeah, by the way, Swami Sarvaprenanji is going to take the role of a Jnani. Okay. Our Pravajaka Divyanatha Pranaji is going to take the role of a Bhakta. And I'm going to take the role of an ignorant soul, okay? Which will not be too hard for me. So Swami Sarvaprenanji, when you think of these thinking styles, which one resonates with that of a Jnani, and how does a Jnani think of the ultimate reality?
Yeah, this is a very good paradigm. In Vedanta, we think of different paradigms in which we approach spiritual life. So one paradigm would be that God exists, we are devotees, and our problem is that we do not have faith in God, we don't believe in God, we don't love, adore, worship, surrender, and that's what we need to do. So that's the paradigm of the Bhakta. There's another paradigm that there is only one limitless reality, and the problem is that we do not know it, we do not realize it. Then the solution would be to know it and realize it. Now, the thinking style, the way of thinking in jnana would be, I want to know the truth. I want to know what's going on here. I want to know what am I. And especially in the path of Advaita Vedanta, this takes the form of, two steps. One is an analytical side, and the other one is a synthetic side. And nowadays we are told by neuroscientists that we have a left brain and a right brain. Right. I was thinking that maps so beautifully. The first part of it is analyzing our own experience. Which experience? What we have right now. Our own body, the mind, the breath, thoughts, ideas. Analyze it. Take it apart. In what? Not physically. That sounds like surgery, but it's a kind of forensic investigation into our own experience. The quest is, what am I? What am I really? Before analysis, I am this. After analysis, what am I? And then once we have discovered that, then you put it all together. So you have taken it apart, I am, and you find something, that you are this one limitless awareness. But then what about the mind and the body and the world which you had set aside? To again integrate them back in, to discover the underlying oneness. That's the synthetic part of it. So the first part of it you can say is a kind of left brain thinking, and the second part of it I was thinking that it is right brain thinking. Putting it all together and discovering oneness. That oneness is the final result of Advaita. The analysis is not it's a way to that oneness. Separation is not the message of Advaita Vedanta. Oneness is the message of Advaita Vedanta. So first analysis, and it's primarily analytical. You will see most of the texts, the methods, which we will do today and tomorrow. Drigdrishya Viveka, the way of the seer and the seen. Panchakosha Viveka, the analysis of the 5 layers of the human personality. The Avasthatraya Viveka, the analysis of the 3 states of waking, dreaming, sleeping. You can see a theme here. It's an analysis. The word Viveka, that captures the Advaitic way of thinking, the Jnani's way of thinking. Viveka means separation. Sri Ramakrishna said, sand and sugar are mixed up. The ant can separate them. Milk and water are mixed up. The swan can, reputedly, separate them. Golmale malache, golti baddi maltilo. I won't even dare to translate that. That's very difficult to translate. So it's an analysis, it's separation in order to discover the truth. That is the first step. And of course, ultimately a synthetic part of... so that's the way a Jnani would think.
So would you think then maybe descriptions from a personality trait would be one who is inquisitive?
Yes, one who wants to know, to understand. It's very important to understand.
Right.
If you feel that way, I would rather understand than anything else. If you feel that way, that's a very useful trait for a person on the path of jnana.
Right.
Yes.
And again, you said they tend to discern, analyze.
And it must make sense. The whole thing must make sense. I must,
Correct.
at least to the Even if you say you cannot understand it, the Jnani will still persist and ask, but why? Why can't I understand it?
Right.
Why is it beyond thought? Why is it beyond language? So for the Jnani, the why doesn't stop until it really does stop.
And do you think it's more, as we said, contrasting it to concrete type thinking, do you think more in abstract terms?
Yes, initially. Although the Jnani would be perverse and say that the Jnani's way of thinking is actually concrete. The others are woolly-headed and dwelling in fancies and unclear thinking. So a Jnani would claim to have grasp on the really concrete.
Right. Thank you, Swamiji. Mataji, so let's ask you the same question. What is the thinking style of a bhakta?
I would like to say that Bhajananandji Maharaj, in his editorials, he says this, that the orientation of the soul towards the impersonal is Jnana, and the orientation of the soul towards the personal aspect of God is Bhakti. But it's always the orientation of the soul.
Right.
So real Bhakti and real Jnana come from the existential plane, not merely the psychological space. It's a far deeper urge. Because, if I have to want to know myself, who I am, or who God is, what do we mean by God, then somewhere I must have freed myself from an already preconceived notion of myself or some imagination about God. It's an existential thirst, what we call bhakti and jnana. So you can't put it just like, well, I'm emotional, so I practice bhakti, and somebody is just curious, so he practices jnana. It's not just that much. It goes way beyond that. So if real bhakti or jnana has to happen, and especially bhakti, it's not got much to do with what we understand by emotion actually. When emotion is raised to a certain pitch, a very high level, it becomes devotion. So it's to do with devotion. It's not a sentimental affair that you have with God. It's something very deep. And as a result, the characteristics of the bhakta then, the bhakta mind, you see, by nature it will have some of the jnana characteristics also. It will be calm, it will be composed. In all these panchabhava sadhanas, the shanta bhav is supposed to be the foundation of every other bhav. Don't think the bhakta is, absolutely reactive and highly emotional. No, not at all. He's very calm and composed by nature, because without that you actually can't invoke a great bhav. See, the word bhav has no English equivalent, so it's very difficult for me to actually discuss bhav sadhana. Bhav means it's much, much more than emotion, first of all. Secondly, it means the total mental disposition or attitude, including the emotional plane, of the aspirant towards the personal aspect of God. So what he feels entirely in his being with regard to the personal God, that constitutes his bhav. Now, in bhav sadhana, you see, emotions may come in. Actually speaking, a very great elevated bhav placed on an awakened consciousness is what you would call bhakti. Emotions may be integrated there, but then they are not just our human emotions. They have gone to an entirely different level, because I told you they are raised, they are elevated to a certain pitch. And only then you can offer them to God, actually speaking. So it's not just the emotional mind or the curious mind that actually aims for bhakti and jnana. It's the pure mind. And then only it works. Then only bhakti also will work and jnana also will work. So I think I look at it this way.
Yes, go ahead, Swamiji.
Mataji just quoted from Revered Swami Bhajananandaji, who is vice president of our order and very senior monk. He was also our teacher when we were novices under training. And she just quoted one of his writings where he says that it is the orientation of the soul towards the impersonal, which is jnana or knowledge. It's the orientation of the soul towards the personal, which becomes bhakti or devotion. No, that's the polite way of saying it. We heard the other way of saying it to us because we were under training under him, and the way he would put it to us was, he would scold us and say, Jnana is meant for yourself and bhakti for the Lord. You fools, you apply jnana to the Lord and bhakti towards yourself.
Yeah, such disasters can happen if we are not clear about bhakti and jnana.
So I may ask the audience then, in one sense, that, yes, Prabhupada, you're giving a very sort of a deeper meaning of what I was talking about here, but just maybe also for our beginners, when you think about the idea of God, do you tend to relate to God as a mother, beloved, or friend, a living presence that you can call upon? Is that your inclination? Or do you feel it's the reality behind all names and forms, even behind the concept of God? Is that what you feel? When you read a spiritual text, are you moved by the stories of the saints, the poetry of longing, the personal connection to God? Or do you seek clarity, metaphysical truths, and are drawn by the Upanishadic declarations like neti neti? So as you start to, where do you fall within this spectrum? Start asking yourself this. You know, Sri Ramakrishna would see certain people, and he would see that, oh, you're of the nature of a Jnani. He'd look at your physical features, your physiognomy, the way your energy was. Or he'd say, you're a Bhakta, or you're a Shakta. So we unpeel the layers, where do we find ourselves? So now let's strip the layer deeper. Let's talk about our emotional nature, our feelings. How do you experience and express emotions? And how is this tied into your path? Do you find yourself maybe more detached, equanimous, composed, or more enthusiastic, intense, and passionate? Do you find yourselves more unpeaceful, non-reactive, and content, or enthusiastic, energetic, and intense? Where is the energy you find yourself within? If you were to go to the Hare Krishna temple, ISKCON, you would see singing, dancing, chanting, high level of energy would be there. If you were to go to Ramana Maharishi's ashram in South India, you would see people sitting in contemplation, maybe, who am I? Or walking in silence. There's a different energy. So, Swamiji, how does a Jnani, how do they feel and how do they express their emotions? What is the emotional disposition of a Jnani?
I'll tell you an anecdote. This really happened. I heard it from monks in the north of India. So there's this great teacher, a non-dualist, a monk. And he was asked a provocative question by, I think, a scholar or a devotee. He said, Swami, which is greater, jnana or bhakti? Kaun badi hai, jnana ya bhakti? Which is greater, jnana or bhakti? And of course, this monk was a non-dualist, a jnani. He immediately replied, without any hesitation, bhakti is greater. Love is greater. Bhakti badi hai. That sort of puzzled the questioner because he didn't expect that answer. So he asked, if bhakti is greater, then what about jnana? What about knowledge? And the immediate answer was again, there is no greater or lesser in knowledge. Jnana mein koi bada chota nahi hota hai. Now you see, these are the two wonderful things about love and knowledge. Love is the highest. There is no doubt about it. On the other hand, in jnana, no higher or lower. It is, as somebody put it, one grand monotony. So, yes, equanimity, freedom from emotional ups and downs, Or even when emotional ups and downs are there, when sentiment is there, love and devotion, the purest forms of emotion, highest forms of emotion, or baser, worldly, more our day-to-day kind of emotional fluctuation which we face, the Jnani would always look for the one monotone behind it. The emotional one tone, like the background in a classical music presentation, that's always there. One would want to be free, freedom from the ups and downs. Let the ups and downs be there. Let all kinds of emotions come and play. Let the melodies come. Just the music, the background, the tone is boring. But it's essential for a wonderful musical performance, so that the whole thing doesn't fall apart into chaos. So emotion for Jnani is sameness, equanimity, serenity, quietness, steadiness, the desire for freedom. The Jnani, see, emotion is extremely powerful. It's the most powerful engine. Intellect is powerless. All power is in the emotions. Now, the thing is, how do we harness these powers? The Jnani does it in one way, the yogi does it in another way, the bhakta does it in another way. The Jnani harnesses these powers of emotion with intense desire for freedom. It's called mumukshutvam. If that is not there, no spiritual progress is possible. Sri Ramakrishna was asked, what's the one condition for enlightenment, for freedom? And he immediately would always say, vyakulata. The intense restlessness. It's an emotional restlessness. The intense restlessness. But restlessness not for the world. It's a restlessness, we immediately respond, restlessness, I can do that. I'm good at it. One Swami once said that, I love the Gita, it's all about me. So where? Where the Sri Krishna goes on about the demonic attributes, all the attributes of demons. See, everything matches with me, he said. So, restlessness not about the world. Restlessness about enlightenment, about God realization. You're restless about the beloved Lord, it becomes bhakti. If you're restless for freedom from our limited sense of mortality, then it becomes jnana. Emotion in both cases. If there is no emotion, if it's just flat, no progress is possible. No progress is possible either. Certainly not in bhakti, but not at all in jnana either.
Swami, let me put a follow-up question with you, just regarding this then. Do you then, by implication here, do you find then, when we're seeing the world around us and the narration of the world, the things that are going on, the ups and downs, the stories that are happening, what is the Jnani's response to that? Is it just detached from that, do you find? That's not the primary focus. What is the concern that it has for the world that's going on, the stories that are going on?
The Jnani's approach to the world is oneness. It's not detachment. It's not that I don't care. I am Brahman and good luck to the rest of you. No. In any spiritual path, we very quickly discovered a private spirituality is not very spiritual at all. Very soon we discovered that, very soon. So the Jnani's approach to the world is oneness. It is all I. Vivekananda's beautiful climax of the poem, the Song of the Sannyasi. The poem is entirely about the path of jnana and the path of the monk. But the climax is, the I has all become, and the all is I and bliss. The I has all become. Right now the I is what? This. This is I.
Right.
This body, this person, this guy, this is I. And the rest of it, not I. It's other. But the Jnani's perspective is, the I has all become. And what is all of this? It is I. Then what is the result of that? It is bliss. So you have a deep sense of oneness. Now after that, what the Jnani will think or say or do about the particular problems, ups and downs in the world, that depends on many, many factors. The nature of that particular Jnani, the circumstances around, and maybe
I see.
So it might be like Ramana Maharshi sitting in a cave. It'd be like Vivekananda, tremendous dynamism going around. Shankaracharya was a tremendously dynamic character. All his life, till the very end of his life, he was intensely active. So what the Jnani will actually do in response to this oneness, that will differ from case to case.
Thank you, Swamiji. Prabhupada,
Huh.
what is the emotional disposition of a bhakta? And here I'd like you to address both, as you said, could be two phases, our own personality traits on the human level and then on a divine level. Maybe you can integrate both. Start with the personality on the human level first.
So if jnana can be called as, the perception of a shared being, you can call bhakti the expression of that shared being. So for the bhakta, he also has a sense of oneness born of his sense of union with God. He also feels one with others, but the deepest level of oneness he has felt with his Ishta Devata or personal aspect of God, and he sees the same Krishna or the same Shiva reflected everywhere. And that, in that sense, he feels a deep sense of oneness. So ultimately, that is also a kind of unitary perception.
Yes.
With one's own, personal God and with others. Because finally it comes to this. See, this duality, the bhakta does not see duality. I'll give you a very beautiful insight from a 18th century text called Bodhasar. Bodhasar is a magnificent, it actually means essence of self-knowledge. And it is by an Advaita Acharya called Sri Narahari. And he throws this insight in the text saying, the Sanskrit goes like this, Dvaitam mohaya bodhat prak, prapte bodhe manishaya, bhaktyartham kalpitam dvaitam advaitadapi sundaram. Which means duality, or whatever you say, emotional, kind of connection with the divine. It is an obstacle only to the unawakened mind. Once the mind awakens to the nature of the Lord, who is of the nature of pure consciousness, this dual attitude is no more an obstacle. In fact, it is far more beautiful. Dvaita is far more beautiful than Advaita. The Advaita Acharya is saying this. So emotion is really an obstacle only to the unawakened. In fact, how they are looking, you see, these great ones who realized the heights of bhakti, they looked on bhakti as a very, very elevated divine bhav, playing on the foundation of pure consciousness. An awakened self, and then bhavas and rasas raised upon that edifice of inner awakening. That is bhakti. So then its manifestations in the bhakta are, you see, there is a perpetual sense of union, oneness, because he lives in the plane of the soul. And bhaktas have very sweet nature. They may not be aloof and reserved like jnanis. Well, I'm not commenting on anyone, but I'm just saying, Raman Maharshi used to say, Bhakti is Jnana Mata. Bhakti is the mother of Jnana. So by their very nature, bhaktas have a soft-hearted, very sweet nature, very relatable, and because they have their emotional life in their hands, and it's all been given over to the Lord, you will find them, you can easily approach them. Every bhakta has been like that. But remember this, as I told you, it's not just about the emotional life. It's something way beyond that. It's raising emotion to a very particular, very high level. Then only real bhakti is possible. And then bhaktas show these signs. You can take the example of Swamiji himself. Okay, he appeared to be a Jnani, but deep within, Thakur used to say, Sri Ramakrishna used to say, pointing to Swami Vivekananda, can a dry Jnani have such a face? He's a bhakta at heart. He appears to be a Jnani. So you can never know how the soul moves.
And what is a bhakta's attitude towards the world?
Bhakta's attitude towards the world is similar to a Jnani's, because he finds his own ishtam reflected in all beings. So he doesn't find, people as personalities. He finds, you can see the songs and all this, because usually music, dance, these were the mediums in which bhaktas express their emotions. So you will see there's always a sense of oneness. They feel it's their ishtam manifesting through so many personalities. So it's similar to the vision of the Jnani. Yeah.
A couple of things come to mind. Swami Vivekananda commented upon Sri Ramakrishna and himself. And he said about Sri Ramakrishna, he said, first of all, about himself, he says, I'm only knowledge on the outside. Inside, I'm all love. I'm paraphrasing that. He used different words. Inside, I'm all love. I have a very soft heart. He says, I have a woman's tender heart inside. And about Sri Ramakrishna, he said, but the old man, he was devotion on the outside. Inside, he was all Advaita. He was all Jnana. So these two together all the time. And Sri Ramakrishna himself says that my final opinion, this should be taken very seriously. So my final opinion is after enlightenment, after the realization that I am Brahman. He says, after enlightenment, spend the rest of your life Bhakti Bhakto Bhagavan. With devotion, with the beloved Lord, and with the devotees of the Lord. And he says, Ei Pakamat. This is my final opinion, a ripe opinion.
Wow. Thank you. So just, if I were to ask the audience then, how do you respond to suffering or loss? Do you feel a need to pray, to cry out, to seek divine comfort or grace? Or do you question the reality of the pain, examine the source of attachment, and try to understand the root of illusion? When you, yes, let's leave it at that. We have no time, so we only have 2 minutes left. So the final thing I want to ask you is basically the last question here. What is the core motivational drive for a Jnani and for a Bhakta?
I guess for the Jnani it would be freedom from suffering, freedom from limitation. It would be the sense of ultimate, complete, utter security. To find the rock bottom, the reality of everything. So that would be a motivation.
It's interesting. You said security, because usually we think of security and comfort when we are connected with someone.
Yes.
People seek relationship for security and ultimately for that divine beloved. But you mentioned security here from the Jnana perspective.
Yes.
Security in the sense, how does a Jnani get security?
When you're forever beyond any possibility of trouble, imperfection, any suffering. So you're delivered beyond all limitations. So that is, I was just quoting the philosopher Wittgenstein. He said, spirituality or religion is the search for ultimate security.
Thank you. Divina Pranaji, what is the core motivational drive for a Bhakta?
It's love. For those who have known it, there's nothing higher than love. So it's only love. Yeah.
So with this said, I think a good thing then is to think about what is our personality types and how can we connect our natural personality, our natural inclinations, how we think, how we feel, our temperament, what drives us to our spiritual practices. And all that has to be rooted into what is it you desire? What is it you want from spiritual life? Are you seeking union with the beloved? Are you seeking freedom from all the limitations that you feel imposed upon and want to be free of all this? And do you want yourself to emerge? Or do you want to merge into something greater than yourself? So just start thinking in these ways as you start hearing the different practices that are coming up by our three eminent speakers coming up. All right. I want to thank each one of you. Thank you so much for giving us this insight.